Have you ever wondered how quickly your body responds to the food you eat? Most people assume that diet-related diseases take years or even decades to develop. While that is true in many cases, some of the biological changes linked to long-term health can begin far sooner than most people realize. In fact, one remarkable scientific experiment revealed that important markers associated with colon health could shift in as little as 2 weeks simply by changing what people were eating. I'm Dr. Richard Hartman, and today I want to share one of the most fascinating nutrition studies I've ever come across. The findings challenge the common belief that dietary changes only matter in the distant future. Instead, they suggest that your digestive system is constantly adapting to every meal you consume, and those adaptations can occur surprisingly fast. This research fundamentally changed the way many scientists think about the relationship between diet and disease, and it should change the way we all think about the food choices we make every single day. The study involved 2 groups of adults living in very different environments and following very different dietary patterns. One group consumed a typical Western-style diet that was relatively low in fiber and high in processed foods, refined carbohydrates, and animal products. The other group followed a traditional plant-focused eating pattern rich in vegetables, legumes, grains, and naturally occurring fiber. These weren't just slight variations in eating habits. These were dramatically different approaches to nutrition that reflected entirely different food cultures and traditions that had developed over generations. The Western diet group was eating in a way that has become standard across much of North America and Europe over the past several decades. Their meals centered around meat, dairy, white bread, pasta, processed snacks, and sweetened beverages. Fresh vegetables and fruits appeared occasionally but weren't the foundation of most meals. Beans and lentils were rarely consumed. Whole grains were uncommon. This pattern is so widespread today that many people don't even recognize it as unusual. It feels normal because it's what we see advertised, what's convenient, and what's available in most restaurants and grocery stores. The other group was following an eating pattern that represents how humans consume food for much of our history before industrialization changed our food supply. Their diet was built around starchy vegetables, beans, lentils, whole grains, and smaller amounts of fish or meat. Processed foods were minimal. Fiber intake was dramatically higher, sometimes 2 or 3 times what the Western diet group was consuming. This wasn't a special diet plan or a temporary experiment for them. This was simply how they had always eaten, based on cultural traditions and the foods available in their communities. Researchers wanted to answer a simple but important question. If these dietary habits were exchanged, how quickly would the body respond? To find out, participants switched eating patterns and maintained their new diets for approximately 14 days. The Western diet group began eating the traditional high-fiber plant-based meals, while the traditional diet group shifted to the low-fiber Western-style approach. Before and after the intervention, scientists carefully examined various indicators of colon health, including the composition of gut bacteria, inflammatory activity, and biological markers associated with long-term cancer risk. This kind of study design is particularly powerful because each group served as their own control. Researchers weren't just comparing different people with different genetics, different lifestyles, and different environmental exposures. They were looking at how the same individuals responded when only their diet changed. That helps isolate the effects of food itself rather than getting confused by all the other factors that influence health. What happened next surprised even many experts in the field. Individuals who moved from a low-fiber Western diet to a more traditional, fiber-rich eating pattern began showing measurable improvements in a matter of days. Their gut environment started shifting toward a healthier balance. Inflammatory signals decreased, and several protective biological processes became more active. The speed and magnitude of these changes caught many researchers off guard. Nobody expected such dramatic shifts in just 2 weeks. The gut microbiome, which is the collection of trillions of bacteria and other microorganisms living inside your digestive tract, began to transform almost immediately. Beneficial species that thrive on plant fiber started to multiply and become more dominant in the gut ecosystem. These microbes produce substances that help maintain the integrity of the intestinal barrier, regulate immune function, and even influence metabolism throughout the entire body. As fiber intake increased, these helpful organisms flourished. At the same time, participants who moved in the opposite direction experienced changes that were far less encouraging. Their digestive systems began displaying signs associated with a less favorable gut environment. Certain beneficial bacterial populations declined, while markers linked to inflammation and cellular stress moved in the wrong direction. The protective compounds that had been abundant when they were eating their traditional diet began to decrease. Inflammatory markers started to rise. The cellular environment inside the colon began to shift toward patterns that scientists associate with increased disease risk over time. What's truly remarkable is not just the direction of these changes, but the speed at which they occurred. 14 days is a very short period in the context of human health. Most medical interventions and lifestyle modifications are evaluated over months or years. Yet the body responded almost immediately to the nutrients being delivered to the digestive tract every single day. This tells us something profound about how dynamic and responsive our internal biology really is. Think about what this means for a moment. Your gut microbiome isn't a fixed trait like your eye color or your height. It's constantly evolving based on the raw materials you provide through food. Every meal is an opportunity to either support beneficial organisms or to starve them out. Every time you eat, you're making a choice that ripples through your entire digestive system within hours. One of the biggest factors driving these results appeared to be dietary fiber. Fiber isn't just something that helps with regular bowel movements, though that's certainly one of its functions. It serves as fuel for beneficial microbes living inside the colon. When these microbes break down fiber through a process called fermentation, they produce compounds that help maintain the health of the intestinal lining and support a balanced digestive environment. Without adequate fiber, these organisms simply cannot thrive, and the entire ecosystem begins to shift toward less desirable patterns. Among these compounds are short-chain fatty acids, substances that researchers believe play an important role in maintaining colon health. You may have heard of butyrate, acetate, or propionate. These are the main short-chain fatty acids produced when gut bacteria ferment fiber. Butyrate in particular serves as the primary fuel source for the cells lining your colon. It helps maintain the barrier between the contents of your intestines and the rest of your body. It influences immune cell activity. It even appears to help regulate the growth and life cycle of colon cells in ways that may reduce cancer risk. When people consume more whole plant foods, these beneficial compounds tend to increase substantially. The bacteria responsible for producing them become more numerous and more active. When fiber intake drops dramatically, production often falls as well, sometimes quite rapidly. This means that the cells lining your colon are receiving less of the fuel and signaling molecules they need to function optimally. This is one reason why nutrition scientists consistently encourage greater consumption of vegetables, beans, lentils, fruits, nuts, seeds, and whole grains. These foods provide a diverse range of fibers that support a thriving and resilient microbiome. Different types of fiber feed different bacterial species, which is why variety matters so much. A potato contains different fibers than an apple. Black beans provide different compounds than broccoli. Oats deliver different nutrients than almonds. Each contributes to the overall diversity and stability of your gut ecosystem. In contrast, diets dominated by heavily processed products often provide far less of what these beneficial microbes need to flourish. Refined grains have had most of their fiber stripped away during processing. Many packaged snacks contain virtually no fiber at all. Animal products, while they may provide protein and certain nutrients, contain zero fiber because fiber only comes from plants. When someone's diet consists primarily of these foods, the beneficial bacteria that depend on fiber simply don't have enough fuel to maintain their populations. Another important lesson from this research is that health improvements don't always require complicated strategies. Many people search for miracle supplements, expensive powders, or trendy wellness products hoping for a shortcut. The supplement industry is massive, generating billions of dollars every year from people looking for an easy solution to health challenges. Yet some of the most powerful changes may come from simply improving the quality of everyday meals. The foods that supported human health for thousands of years are still the foods that support it today. You don't need exotic superfoods shipped from remote corners of the world. You don't need to follow complex meal plans that require extensive preparation time. You don't need expensive specialty products marketed with impressive health claims. What matters most is consistently choosing whole, minimally processed plant foods as the foundation of your eating pattern. That's not glamorous or exciting, but the evidence suggests it's extraordinarily effective. If you're looking for practical steps, start by increasing the number of plant foods on your plate. This doesn't necessarily mean you need to eliminate everything else or adopt a rigid dietary philosophy. It simply means shifting the balance gradually toward more vegetables, fruits, legumes, and whole grains. Add beans to soups and salads. They're inexpensive, versatile, and packed with both fiber and protein. Replace refined grains with whole grain alternatives when possible. Choose brown rice instead of white. whole grain bread instead of white bread, or try quinoa, barley, or farro as interesting alternatives. Include vegetables with lunch and dinner, not just as an afterthought, but as a central component of the meal. Experiment with different preparation methods if you find plain vegetables boring. Roasting brings out natural sweetness. Seasoning with herbs and spices adds flavor without adding empty calories. Mixing different colors and textures makes meals more visually appealing and nutritionally diverse. Snack on nuts, fruit, or seeds instead of highly processed snacks that offer little nutritional value. Keep fresh fruit visible and accessible. Prepare cut vegetables in advance so they're easy to grab when hunger strikes. Small decisions repeated consistently can have a meaningful impact over time. You don't have to overhaul your entire life overnight. Small, sustainable changes often produce better long-term results than dramatic transformations that are difficult to maintain. Variety also matters tremendously. Different plants contain different fibers and nutrients, which means different groups of beneficial bacteria receive support. Some bacteria specialize in breaking down the pectin found in apples and berries. Others thrive on the resistant starch in beans and lentils. Still others prefer the inulin found in onions, garlic, and asparagus. The more diverse your plant intake becomes, the more diverse and adaptable your gut ecosystem can be. A diverse microbiome is generally more resilient and better able to maintain stability even when challenged by stress, medication, or occasional dietary indiscretions. The broader message here is incredibly encouraging. Your body is not passively waiting years to react to your choices. It is responding right now, today, with every meal. Every meal sends signals throughout your digestive system, influencing the environment inside your gut in ways that scientists are still working to fully understand. The research continues to reveal new connections between diet, gut bacteria, immune function, inflammation, metabolism, and even brain health. The gut is now recognized as central to overall wellness in ways that weren't appreciated even a decade ago. No single study can guarantee that changing your diet will prevent disease, and nutrition is only one piece of the health puzzle. Genetics play a role. Environmental exposures matter. Physical activity is important. Sleep quality influences health. Stress management contributes to well-being. Social connections affect longevity. All of these factors interact in complex ways that we're still working to understand. However, the evidence continues to show that food plays a major role in shaping the internal conditions that support long-term wellness. Of all the lifestyle factors we can control, diet is one of the most powerful and one of the most immediate in its effects. Unlike many other health interventions, you have the opportunity to influence your biology multiple times every single day through the choices you make about what to eat. So if you've been putting off healthier eating because you think it's too late or because results seem too far away, remember this: meaningful biological changes can begin much sooner than you think. Sometimes the first step toward a healthier future starts with the very next meal. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to follow restrictive rules. You simply need to make slightly better choices more often, and your body will begin responding in ways that support your health both now and in the years to come. The power to influence your gut health, your inflammatory status, and your long-term disease risk is sitting right there on your plate. That's both empowering and humbling. It means we have more control than we might have thought, but it also means we bear responsibility for the choices we make. The good news is that those choices become easier over time as your taste preferences adapt, as you discover new foods you enjoy, and as you begin to feel the difference that better nutrition can make in your energy, digestion, and overall sense of well-being.